Surfing the internet has become a commonplace activity. Whether it's information, games or bank transactions we're talking about, billions of data are sent, received or processed round the clock. And today this global network is so easy to use. The technology behind it is called the World Wide Web. Along with email, it's the most frequently used internet application. Amazingly, we owe this revolutionary technology first and foremost to one brilliant programmer, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee. Timothy Berners-Lee was born in London on June 8, 1955. His parents were members of the team at Manchester University which developed the Mark I, one of the first stored program computers. When I came home from school one day, Berners-Lee remembers, my father was reading a book on brain research. He was looking for clues as to how a computer might be taught to establish links in the same way that the human brain does.
How we can make it happen that a computer works as a
That's because the brain links things that have a common feature, even if at first they appear totally unrelated. According to the dictionary, a horse is a perissodactyl animal. But someone might also associate the word horse with the knight on a chessboard. Or the piece of gymnastic equipment generations of school children have taken a tumble on. When texts are linked together in this way, we talk of hypertext. After the brief discussion with his father, Berners-Lee says he got on with his homework, but the idea of teaching a computer hypertext continued to preoccupy him. In 1973, Berners-Lee went to study physics at Oxford. As a student, he built his first computer using a soldering iron, transistors, an early microprocessor and an old television set. After graduating, Berners-Lee worked as a programmer. In 1980, he spent 6 months in Switzerland as an independent contractor. With CERN, the European Centre for Particle Physics. At first, he had no idea who was responsible for what at CERN and which computer programs they were using. To gain an overview, he wrote his own program. It compared documents on staff members, their projects, and the software they were using. The program checked whether the documents contained certain key words. If so, their locations in the documents were interlinked. Remembering an old-fashioned encyclopedia from his childhood, Berners-Lee called his program Enquire. It was an apt name because, with its cross-references, the program functioned like an encyclopedia. Many entries ended with the recommendation, "See also." Enquire's links led to a list of other documents with the same key words. Since the program's links were based on the hypertext principle, Berners-Lee called them hyperlinks. His program only ran on the computer at CERN and was never published. Nevertheless, it formed the basis for the World Wide Web, which he developed later, because Berners-Lee didn't just want to interlink documents on one computer, he also wanted to interlink documents on several computers at different locations. It was this concept that resulted in the creation of the World Wide Web. An appropriate network of interconnected computers already existed in the form of the Internet. It was the ideal vehicle for the realization of Berners-Lee's vision. The origins of the Internet go back to the late 1950s, when America was stunned by a Russian breakthrough in the space race.
Today, a new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket.
In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1 to become the first nation to put a satellite in orbit around the Earth. The United States government felt compelled to act. It decided that every scrap of technological knowledge had to be collated and, above all, made available to the military at all times to avoid any further political embarrassment. In 1958, at the behest of President Eisenhower, Defense Minister Neil H. McElroy established the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA for short. Its brief: to focus on the new communication technologies.
With Paul Barron at the helm, ARPA was commissioned to develop a computer network that would still function if parts of it failed. Barron soon realised that this could only be achieved with a decentralised structure, because with a centralised structure there is only a path from A to B. If the central node fails to function, the information cannot reach its destination. A decentralised structure, however, enables the information to be diverted via point C if the central node is down. Thus, the Internet concept was born. In 1969, 4 computers at the universities of Stanford, Utah, Los Angeles and Santa Barbara were interconnected via special telephone lines to form the first computer network, the ARPANET, the forerunner of today's Internet. The scientists who had access to this network quickly realized its value. Data could now be recalled at any time from computers far away. By 1974, the ARPANET had grown to encompass over 100 computers, some of them even outside the United States. The word Internet was coined. In 1983, it became the official term for the system. The problem with the ARPANET, however, was that it was used by very different types of computer. Someone working with one particular system needed substantial computer knowledge to recall data from another system. Since the computers had different operating systems, they could not understand one another, just like two people speaking different languages. Tim Berners-Lee wanted to devise a common computer language so that every user of the network would be able to recall all available data irrespective of the system they were stored in. In 1984, Berners-Lee returned to CERN, this time to take up a permanent post. His task was to create a documentation system that would enable CERN staff from all over the world to exchange and administer the results of their research more easily. To this end, amongst other things, Berners-Lee developed the 2 main building blocks of the World Wide Web. He called them HTML and URL. HTML is short for Hypertext Markup Language, while URL stands for Universal Resource Locator. HTML is a language all computers can understand. It creates text documents and makes hyperlinks. In other words, cross-reference is possible. A program known as a browser ensures the correct portrayal of an HTML document on the computer. As the name suggests, the second function of the browser is to browse or comb the net to locate and recall the information required. For this to be possible, every document needs a specific address under which it can be found. The URL, the Universal Resource Locator, developed by Berners-Lee. A URL starts with the letters www for World Wide Web. Then comes the name of the computer on which the data requested are stored. This is normally referred to as the server. The URL then ends with the actual name of the information sought. In our example, Berners-Lee as a subpoint of the chapter People. With this type of addressing, every document on every computer linked up to the Internet is clearly designated. Right from the start, Berners-Lee had thought about a circle of users outside CERN. Consequently, he named his new product the World Wide Web. His computer at CERN became the web's first server. It provided access to all information on the World Wide Web. With this publication, Berners-Lee triggered off a chain reaction. The Internet community, which already existed, had been waiting for an instrument like the World Wide Web. All over the world, its members now sat at their computers for days and nights, installing new servers, improving Berners-Lee's programming, and helping the WWW overcome its teething problems. One major difference from today was the user surface, as it's known, what the user sees on the monitor. At first, it was only possible to recall text, and all functions and commands had to be entered. So, in its infancy, the World Wide Web was still an instrument solely for experts. Then, in 1993, a student called Mark Andreessen programmed the Mosaic browser. For the first time, it integrated pictures and hyperlinks that could be activated simply with a mouse click. A year later, the browser was marketed under the name Navigator. Its screen-oriented concept revolutionized the World Wide Web. At the end of 1994, CERN officially bowed out of the development of the World Wide Web without having applied for any patents. The Institute still thought in terms of an open, non-commercial network. But software firms worldwide pounced on the net. Indeed, 1994 is seen as the year in which the World Wide Web became big business. Tim Berners-Lee took no share in the boom. Instead of embarking on risky business adventures, he preferred to focus on the further development of the web. The World Wide Web has come a long way since its modest beginnings in the early 1980s. Since 1994, the number of participants has grown by leaps and bounds. By 2002, there were already 2.5 billion web pages, and the number continues to increase. This huge volume of data and the ease with which it can be accessed has had hardly any effect on our concept of information. If something appears on the internet, it is usually seen as genuine, and often wrongly so. This spectacular picture, for instance, was published on the internet with the claim that it had been nominated for World Press Photo of 2002, but it was just a clever montage. And it hadn't been nominated either. The picture was a fake. False reports on the World Wide Web are known as hoaxes. Some hoaxes are more or less amusing, but others can cause serious damage. For example, when someone reacts to a fake demand from their bank to reveal the access data to their account. Without the World Wide Web, just-in-time production, which shifts the stocks of entire warehouses to trucks on the road, would be just as inconceivable as globalization, with all its negative consequences. The web could also give rise to a new dual-class society, those who, in their search for information, turn to traditional media, like the wide range of reference books, need a huge amount of time to find what they need, if they find it at all. As a rule, this can be done much faster online. Just 4 years after it was launched, the Wikipedia encyclopedia alone contained over 290,000 entries. Constantly updated, they also offered diverse links to all possible topics from A to Z. And to bid successfully at an online auction, you also need access to the communication platform of the 21st century. In recent years, its inventor, Tim Berners-Lee, has received numerous awards. In June 2004, he was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. He keeps a critical eye on the development of the World Wide Web. Asked whether the web had made mankind more intelligent, Berners-Lee said, "Not really, but we're linked better."